Hi, guys. Welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day for an interview. And this will be a very cool interview for so many reasons, because I've got Brenda Hershey with me. Brenda is a woman who has figured out the close link between trauma and problems in the body. So there's the old saying, the issues lying in the tissues. And that's often quite a nice thing to say, but what the hell do you do about it? Okay, so Brenda has developed a special interest in that. And guess what? She is not just a woman who's sort of theoretically thinking about it and maybe doing something about it. No, she is going in there because Brenda is actually based right now in Iraqi Kurdistan. She is an author, a humanitarian, and she is the founder and president of Try Global. And we were going to come to that in a second, but I'm so excited to have Brenda with me. Welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to be here.
There are certain places that probably most people don't really know where that is. And probably many people who know probably don't really want to go there. How the hell did you end up in Kurdistan, in the Iraqi part of Kurdistan?
Great question. So when people ask me this, I often say that I didn't choose Kurdistan. Kurdistan chose me. So I was actually finishing my master's degree in Greece. I did my last semester there doing my thesis on trauma-informed community development in refugee camps. So I was teaching trauma recovery yoga to refugees there. And that was actually my first interaction with the Kurdish population, period. So I was living in the city center, and there was a big protest there because there was some situation with Trump had pulled out of Kurdistan and something. So there was a really peaceful but big protest. And that was my first interaction with the Kurds. I kind of attended and just observed. And a few days before I left, so this was just like a month after, and that's when I started asking, like, who are the Kurds? Like, what's going on there? And a few weeks later, it was about 3 days before I was leaving Greece, I met a man in the laundromat, and he was saying, we started talking. He was really interesting, also doing humanitarian work. And he said he had just left the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and they were looking for someone to fill his position. So I should send my CV, and that's what I did. And a month later, I was here. So that's the
priceless, priceless. And sometimes you just have to take opportunities and challenges as they come along. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and be open.
Your master's, what did you write that in? What was that all about?
So my bachelor's was international relations, and I specialized in peace and diplomacy in Arabic. So I speak some Arabic. And then my master's is in community development and action, which I got in Chicago. So I was really fortunate to be able to do my thesis in Greece and really be on the ground, which was just foreshadowing what I knew I was meant to be doing in the first place, what was to be on the ground with people. So wow. Yeah, that's my education summary.
Was that always your vision to help others, or how did that all come about? Was there an influence? Are your parents missionaries, or have there been what transformed you? What planted that seed?
Good question. Since I was a little kid, I imagined myself abroad, helping people, like serving in some capacity, but I didn't really know what that looked like at the time. And I didn't know anyone who had, like, I'm from rural Ohio. So it's like only white Christians. There's no diversity, like none of that. So I really craved that growing up. And I didn't know anyone who traveled outside of the US until I was like 18 years old. Like I went to college. So I had this really strong vision, but I was continuing to piece together what that would look like for me throughout my early adulthood. And then a few years ago, I was introduced to Trauma Recovery Yoga, or TRY, which was a company based in the US. And that's when I really was able to marry these passions of serving people who had experienced trauma, and yoga, which had been so healing and so powerful in my journey. So to marry these two things and to have the science that backed it up really connected a bunch of dots for me. Mm-hmm.
Now, it's interesting because there will be two kind of people in this world: those who have actually tried yoga in one form or the other, and those who have not. Those who have not have got all the cliches and prejudices and whatever kind of,
Sure.
tree hugger kind of attitude, and they are forgiven for thinking, well, here you go into actually maybe a bit more volatile part of this world, and you're practicing yoga. Are you nuts? There must be so much better ways to spend your time, i.e., maybe doing psychology, maybe doing talk therapy. Why the hell would this focus on the body be of such value?
Great and very common question. So one of our mottos in TRY is that we speak science, not Sanskrit. So we take out any of undeniably, and not that we want to diminish the roots of yoga and the spiritual roots of yoga and the history of it. None of that. We just don't share that in our classes. And there's no spirituality whatsoever. So, and not only that, but then we teach it in a very tutorial way. So as we do neck rolls and we breathe, I say, as we breathe fully and move in this way, we tone our vagus nerve, which helps to bring balance back into the nervous system, which helps to calm our body, which calms our mind. So like weaving this science talk in a way that can be received by our participants is something we really push and is really well received here. So that's one big reason why people are so accepting of it here. I even just co-facilitated a teacher training here. So we trained 10 Kurdish government officials to become trauma recovery yoga instructors. So even the government's on board when we can speak their language, Yeah. So that was one piece of your question.
And I think it is so beautifully answered, because most people are probably a little bit misguided when it comes to yoga, and you think some ashram and in all fairness, I mean, when you say, kiss the sun or whatever the different poses are called in the traditional things. Okay. It can sound a little bit strange, but having said it, I love the way you take it back to those things that essentially drive us, the yin and yang within us. And that is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is the fight and flight, what keeps you alive if you find yourself suddenly walking in front of a bus. You either quickly get out of the way or you fight this bus, and you probably lose, okay? Just a bit of a tip there. So that's your adrenaline, saves you all the time. But hey, if you go on all the time adrenaline, well, guess what? That's exactly what happens to someone who is suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where you've got your adrenaline switched on all the time because you're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're constantly, hyper vigilant, and
you get stuck in this stress state, and that affects the functioning of every system in your body.
Exactly.
And for people in recovery, for people who have experienced, who have been displaced and are living in extreme poverty and are faced with discrimination every day. So the people we're working with here, they're also very easily stuck and totally unaware that their nervous system is working in this way, or even to have language or an awareness around any of this that we're talking about. So that's what we try to weave in, and not only give them these simple but powerful practices that we're doing with them, which we can talk about more also, like what even exactly that we're doing. but also to have this slight educational component. So they have an understanding of what's going on, why they feel better, how they can incorporate or integrate some of these tools into their daily life. So,
and how powerful this can be. You're giving a choice back to those people who who feel powerless, helpless, often worry about their anything, finances, where's the water coming from? Will there be shelter? Will there be food? How long will I be here? What's my uncertainty? Well, everything is uncertain, basically. So if you think about the pyramid of needs and you look down there at the very bottom, the survival kind of stuff, well, that is all in question for someone who is either internally displaced or a refugee outside of your country. So it is, these are brutal times. These are very scary times. And now if you suddenly bring peace and calm and serenity, even for a few moments, now that is gold. Yeah. That is beautiful. And can you imagine just in a normal relationship, and suddenly money is tight? Can you imagine that there will be rows and fights between mommy and daddy, and that the children may be not so happy? Well, guess what? Now, put that on steroids, okay? It's not just the money that's not there. Maybe no food, maybe no water, maybe now literally threats to the human body due to extremism, due to people who don't like you whatsoever. So here you are, and suddenly to give them this power that you do, well, that's gold.
Actually, you hit the nail on the head with this. So choice is one of the pillars of TRI, because no one has a choice in their trauma. You know, your choice is taken away from you. So that's the only rule we tell people, is to exercise their power of choice. To do what feels good in their body. What feels good in mine might not feel good in yours. So listen to your body, make it your practice. You make the rules. And we remind them of that throughout the class. So once, and it's the same sequence every time. We do this yoga class. We have it for men, women in a chair, for children. And we also teach like breathing practices, guided meditations, all of course are trauma informed. So with whatever we're teaching, we are reminding them of their choice, and it becomes really empowering. And you can see the transformation if you work with people for even a few weeks. You know, the first time they can be more concerned with the physical practice, because these are people who have never seen a yoga mat, you know? But then after even just a couple practices, because we're practicing the same sequence, if we're doing a class, to see their journey moving outward, inward, and exactly to your point, to what we're doing is fostering a sense of safety and security in their bodies. You know, they don't have to take any pills or any powders. Like, it's just their tools that are already within them, and to provide an opportunity to tap into that, and for them to feel that is just it's so fulfilling. I get full body goosebumps just thinking about those moments in the class when you see that in their eyes. They're just like, oh, maybe the first time in years that they notice their breath. So yeah, it's simple but profound.
Oh, please. And if you're on adrenaline, I mean, just look at the state that you're in. Shallow breathing, constantly looking around. And when you use yoga, when you use actually mindfulness, when you use certain breathing techniques, that is exactly the opposite. Instead of breathing up here, fluttering like a little bird, you're actually taking the whole body, and I can't wait to do it in a moment with you. But I need to ask more questions. I mean, first of all, please teach us about the Kurds. What is the main religion in your area? Are we talking Islam, or are we talking Greek Orthodox? Or a mixture?
Yeah, this is very, all of the nuances of culture and religion and language. It's so interesting here and so multi-layered. But mainly we're working with Muslims.
Okay.
And then a large Yazidi population. So Yazidi is, yeah, you've heard of the Yazidis?
Yeah, please explain. I know, but please explain to us.
Actually, I didn't know before I had come here because I've been working with Yazidis since I came, but they are an ethno-religious minority, the largest behind Christians in Iraq, which is a surprisingly very diverse country for anyone who doesn't know. But their homeland, their historical homeland is in northern Iraq. And so ISIS committed genocide against them in 2014, claiming that they were devil worshippers and, taking different phrases from the Quran and manipulating them or interpreting them. And so they committed genocide against them, and hundreds of thousands were displaced to the region where I am now in northern Iraq and in Kurdistan. And so still thousands and thousands live in camps. So this is 8 years later. Many have traveled abroad, and it's really dispersed this community and broken it in many regards. And at the same time, it's such a resilient community. I think that's worth saying. So it's mainly Yazidis and Muslims that we're working with. Yeah.
Does the Islam, how does the Islam deal with something that is potentially a Hindu practice? Are there conflicts?
So here, so far, we have been welcomed with open arms. And I like I said, I really speak the science. I emphasize that part of it because it's a mind-body therapy, and we still get to touch on like how trauma lives in the body and why we have to use the body in order to give someone an opportunity to really process what's stuck in their body. But yeah, with the science, it's been very well received. We did, like I mentioned, we actually had 2 recent teacher trainings here. So it's a 20-hour training where we teach all the science and we practice and we have them teach each other. And it's the first kind of training of its kind here that we're aware of, that anyone's aware of. And
beautiful.
And so we had lots of, it was really beautiful. And we had plenty of conversations around, well, maybe the name of this, like sun salutes, maybe because it says sun. I thought it was the salutation part that there was question around. And I learned later it was the sun part, because there are some religions here that worship the sun, and Muslims want to steer very clear of that. Yeah. So there was these different things that came up. There were plenty of really organic and groundbreaking conversations, I'll say, around these things. Yeah, so we made notes. We'll adjust some things, but generally speaking, it was great. They were really curious, and I'm excited to keep learning how to integrate this in a more widespread manner here.
Well, that's right. I mean, trod a parallel to the AA, to the 12-step system. The 12 steps, they originally were created with with the necessity to stop drinking. That was really what that was. Now, that was the 1930s in the US. And essentially, the people who founded the 12 steps, they realized that really, in order to sell that, you need to be Christian. So they need to speak God in there. And that was really it. And actually, in fact, the founder of the AA was actually not Christian. His wife is clear to say, no, he is not. He didn't really buy into it, but he was a good salesman. So therefore, that is why nowadays it's there. And the only reason the AA meets in churches is because you get cheap rooms there, basically. So let's be quite clear about that. And so the reason I'm saying that is there is sometimes this friction between people like me who don't believe really in God. And now suddenly we shall pray, and, God grant me the serenity. And, it grinds a little bit to start off with, until you realize someone then comes along and says, God, this could be a group of orderly drunks or a group of druggies. And then suddenly you realize it's not really to do much with God. It has to do with the power of a community which is helping each other. And there are certain steps you can go through to actually go in a guided way. So suddenly, if you're willing to make it work, you can make it work. And I love it to hear from you. And just before anyone says, oh, you're going against the Muslims and Islam. No, I go against any religion. Don't worry. Like the Christians, I'm married to a beautiful wife who has found Jesus Christ. And she confronted me recently because I'm doing yoga, and I do flexibility yoga more. And so she actually said, no, yoga, no, that's a devil's work. And I said, what? And I said, yeah, because it's all about, sun and chakras. That's no. That's if you want to have relaxation, you need to find God. And I thought, nah, doesn't work with me. So therefore, okay, so I've insulted Islam, I've insulted Christianity. Who have we missed? Okay, so let's get it all out of the way.
No, actually, you bring up a really fantastic point, which is and another one of a philosophy that I really try to embody here is to meet people where they are. So personally, I think it's so easy, especially like I grew up with kind of extreme Christians, and here there are extreme, like quite a few different groups. So it's really easy to feel like that. I felt resentment for a long time. So I've come though to see the value, and I have my own kind of concoction of spiritual beliefs. But a big part of that is finding the value in different religions, finding the practices that work for me. And I think that really helps me in facilitating these trainings, because regardless of the beliefs, and there's always like one or two people that are a bit more extreme or outspoken, or, in any training or group, this is the dynamic. And I've come to appreciate that and to kind of use that to be like, that's really interesting. Okay, who else is thinking like this? All right, how can we find the value in that? How can we tie this to this? So to kind of use that to orchestrate a deeper understanding than even maybe I had going in. And to use that to speak to the people, because maybe one person says it, but 75% of the people are thinking it. Yeah. And I try to use that also to humble myself. And, I'm not just the white savior coming in. I don't know everything. And even though I've been here for quite a while now, and I'm really very familiar with the culture and the belief systems and all of that, to continue reminding myself to meet people where they are and to speak their language in all of the ways that I can, because it's not about me. It's really about them.
Exactly.
So it's a journey though.
Oh, hell yes. And a huge challenge. How I know I have got some Turkish acquaintances, and so I know that there's not necessarily such a strong male versus female kind of power struggle going on. Having said that, I mean, how do you experience it in the classes? When you teach a men's class, what happens? Do you wear you will probably not wear a burqa, but do you cover your hair? How does it work for you?
Yeah, this is a great question, and it gives wonderful insight into Kurdish culture, because it's quite different in some ways than the rest of Middle Eastern culture, Iraqi culture even. So I have not taught an all-male class here. I've had men and women mixed in trainings and classes, and of course, I've taught plenty of all women's classes. But generally speaking, women have a choice here to wear a hijab or not. If you go deeper into like family dynamic, there might be more of an obligation for them to wear it. But culturally speaking, like it's a woman's choice. Women drive. There are definitely societal expectations of women to be staying at home and taking care of children and stuff like this, fulfilling like a woman's role. But there are plenty of Kurdish women working and all of that. So in terms of me showing up and teaching a class, I can show up just as I am. Sometimes I wear leggings, not that are like too revealing, but otherwise, like I'm wearing sweatpants and I can wear, a t-shirt. I can show my arms, whatever. So yeah, it is quite different than, for example, if you cross the border into Iraq.
Exactly.
Yeah, personally, I would need to be wearing a hijab, and I would need to be more careful about just going about my day to day. Not that it's all that it's all dangerous, like in the rest of the country, but you need to like watch your step a bit more, I think.
Indeed, Rod. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. So I guess whilst you are in an interesting part of the world, the Kurdistan, or that part of Iraq that you live in, we shouldn't call it Kurdistan. There is no country Kurdistan. There's the Kurdish people who are basically displaced and are living over an area, sort of five different countries. And ideally, that's where they consider their home to be. And just after the Second World War, things were just sort of sliced up. And there you go. So having said that, it is actually a beautiful, beautiful scenario, a beautiful setting that you describe. More importantly, it seems to be that people focus on what is important, i.e. not maybe necessarily cultural norms, but rather dealing with the trauma, dealing with the problems that people have experienced, and using a pragmatic approach to get better. And that's so nice to hear. I hate extremism with a passion. So to hear a pragmatic, hey, here's someone who wants to help, why don't we give it a shot? Hey, I don't like the sun. Okay, that's fine. Let's work around it. I love it. Crisis resolution, conflict resolution in a most beautiful way.
It really is. It has been so refreshing for me. And even working with the Kurdish government, they were really specific in a lot of ways, and it was a bit more challenging to coordinate with them than it would be like any other organization. And so I was really like rolling with the punches. I was like, okay, like what can we be flexible on? What can we not? And in the end, the general director and the branch of the government we worked with, they have a mental health. They have mental health institutes all around the country. They have a presence in every refugee camp. Yeah, and in the end, after all this coordination, right? That's where we need to be. That's where we get to be. And that's where I see our expansion moving. And in the end, after all of this coordination, the general director was like, I know it's different coordinating with us, but we really do want to have more of our staff trained and to have you doing more capacity building with us. So let us know how we can continue coordinating moving forward. And that was just a really beautiful, and, like maybe to some degree, he's, just saying what he needs to say to continue it. But I really felt that they do see the value in this, and they do want to continue, and they want to figure out what will work for us and what won't, and how we can meet in the middle to make this happen.
Beautiful.
So it is really refreshing. Yeah, because these are, I mean, authoritarian systems that have been in place for a really long time. It's all about the hierarchy, about power, and in many ways that trickles into society, and you see that on a regular basis. So to have someone in such a position to, you know, express it in this way, and to see the value like in the people, to hear it from them, I was like, he's like, how's it going? And I was like, it's going great, but ask the participants, ask your staff.
Good.
Yeah. It's really
what a challenge, really isn't it? But you're not just you know, just Middle East. Yeah, Middle East is easy. Now let's take on Ukraine. Okay, because you have got your eyes set far afield, because you want to make this world a better place, and that's why I'm so intrigued about you and your mission. Tell us a bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, so we are. Let me just first touch on the project. So we are planning a project in Ukraine. We'll be based in Lviv, which is about an hour from the Polish border. And what this will entail is facilitating some of these 20-hour teacher trainings and providing community classes. So we don't only want to go there, like me, go there and teach to displaced people in the city. And by the way, Lviv, the population has about tripled. It's really a critical access point, both for humanitarian aid coming in and for displaced people leaving Ukraine. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to teach the classes to people. But we also want to really to build systems that are sustainable, empowering, and accessible. So to train locals to continue teaching the classes long after we've gone. We also have everything translated into Ukrainian, almost completely finished. So all of our written content, all of our classes and video content broken down piece by piece. So yeah, our base is here in the Middle East. This is where we're continuing to expand and to integrate into society. And then this project in Ukraine will be through our crisis response team. So we deploy to areas around the globe impacted by disaster. And my vision is to, you know, just reach even a few people in these crisis situations and allow them to, like I said before, foster a sense of safety and security in their bodies, and to recalibrate their nervous system during a crisis. I mean, when we undergo trauma, we know certain parts of our brain are either turned off or weakened, and that includes our prefrontal cortex, which is our executive decision-making, higher functioning. So if you're in a crisis situation, you're in survival mode, and you might not be able to make a healthy decision, or, you know, if you're faced with a fork in the road, like, you might not have the ability in the moments, because your amygdala is just still sounding the alarm system in your body. And so to help people find their breath, and to find a bit of inner peace really is the vision. And that's one person at a time, one breath at a time. So.
But it's also one gesture at a time. Whenever you are lost, the smallest gesture can mean so much. And for you to give that gesture of help, that the kind of, I teach you how to fish, not just here, have a fish. Exactly. It's the same principle. And that is beautiful. So that is, I ended up in rehab where I was drinking far too much to numb my PTSD, numb my depression, etc. And one Sunday, the nurse came to me and said, "You've got a visitor." And I thought, what? I knew my family was not due to come up that weekend. And the door opens, and there was an anesthetic technician that I was working with at the time in the hospital. And he forever wanted to get me to come to church with him. And I said, look, thank you, no. But he made the 3-hour trip, came up to me to sit with me 20 minutes and just talk to me, and then left. I will never forget that gesture of him going out of the way to just be there for me. That is beautiful. And you're doing exactly that. And you're helping other people to see that beautiful thing, experience that, and maybe do the same for others. So there is the snowball effect there. There's this kind of snowball who hopefully turns into an avalanche. And that is exactly what we want to achieve in such a scenario. We can make this work.
That's
Ladies
beautiful. First. No. I was just going to say that's really beautiful. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's kind of my experience with this on a deeper level, like one level deeper, because I was teaching the first chair classes I ever taught was in Chicago in the basement of a church at an event to moms who had lost a child to gun violence on the South Side.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was maybe a 3-4 hour event, and I had my own room. And the idea was that the moms would come into the room throughout the event, and I would teach like one class at a time, just back-to-back classes. So I had set up the room with about 20 chairs. The first time I'm teaching, at any one point, I only taught 1 or 2. So, you can imagine I have this big room full of like empty chairs, and so even the vision of it as I picture it now is so symbolic, and there's only ever 1 or 2 people sitting in front of me. And this experience, and I think I taught like 8 classes that night. And this experience really solidified for me that if I ever have one person come to a class, that is exactly who is supposed to receive this today. That is a success. And I have not had a shred of doubt in my mind every single class that I've taught since then, maybe 5 years ago, that if one person comes, perfect. I teach as if I'm teaching to 100 people, And so on a deeper level, whenever I personally am teaching a class online or here, I really try to be intentional about showing up and seeing each person as they are. And if it's one person, perfect. Because this might be life-changing for them. Who knows? So just show up my best every single time.
So if we all were to just do that, just show up intentionally, would that not change our lives? And guess what? 80% of success is showing up. I had the best talks, the best interviews ever at times when I thought, I so don't want to talk to someone. I'll just go away. Give me an excuse not to talk to you. And suddenly you think, wow, what is happening? What is going on? You're taken for a ride here that you had no way of predicting. And it's beautiful. So just actually showing up with intention and being there. That applies to you in your relationship. Maybe just actually being intentionally there with your partner, with your children, actually spending time there. And now I go one step further. So imagine you know how to breathe and you know how to do yoga. And you could, of course, sit all around the table with your devices. Or you could actually try, hey, you know what, guys? We do yoga now. Shall we do together? Can you imagine that suddenly you create a community? People think you're nuts to start off with, but suddenly you're changing. You're taking action. You're taking a choice. Beautiful. So just 100%. Exactly. So here you are. You are just starting, maybe just planting those seeds, and who knows what is growing out of it. If you were to look at us here now. And I mean, do you want to give us a taster? Shall we do a bit of yoga here? Shall we do a bit of a, do you want to guide me a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes. Actually, so before we start, then I will give you a little 101 as to what this will be. We'll do it for maybe 3-4 minutes, let's say.
Cool.
And why it. So great. I'm glad you asked this. So we'll do a little self-regulation for resilience, or SRR. And this is really the foundation of all of our practices. And what SRR is, well, it's both reactive and proactive, meaning that it helps us recover. It can help us recover from the physical effects that trauma can have on us. So headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, restlessness, you name it. And it's also proactive. So it helps us simultaneously build a higher level of resilience. So with that, let's do it. And then we can talk about it afterwards.
Cool.
Okay. So wherever you are, unless you're driving, keep your eyes open as we do this. But find a comfortable seat. Let your hands rest on your legs. Drop your chin toward your chest. Either close your eyes, or you can focus on one point, soften your gaze, and breathe in and out of your nose. Taking a few mindful breaths here, letting your shoulders melt down. Noticing here any sensations in your body, in your mind. Not labeling good or bad, just noticing. Coming back to that next inhale. We'll practice a little self-regulation, starting with orientation, which is just finding yourself in your space. So engaging our senses. First, notice 3 different sounds you can hear right now. Counting to yourself. Maybe you can hear your breath. Hearing the words, I am present, I am peaceful. And now really feeling your connection with your feet to the floor, your sit bones on the chair, maybe your weight against the back of the chair. Moving into grounding, which is literally just noticing your connection to the ground. Feeling the weight of your hands on your legs, feeling everywhere you're being supported right now. Hearing the words, I am grounded, I am supported, I am strong. We notice what's happening around us. Now we'll notice what's happening on the inside. Oftentimes post-trauma or crisis, we might find ourselves off center, which could look like reacting unconsciously rather than mindfully responding. So now we practice bringing that energy back in, finding our center. We do this by engaging your abdominal muscles. And inhale, sit up a little taller. Exhale, press all the air out, pushing your belly button in toward your spine. We'll do that 2 more times as you engage your core. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more time with your breath. Maybe feeling a little heat start to build here. This is your power center. Hearing the words, I am centered, I am powerful. Breathing naturally again. And moving to the last piece, which is your breath. We can't breathe in the past or in the future. You can only breathe right here, right now. So asking yourself, am I inhaling or exhaling right now? And just tracing that next inhale in through the nose, the throat, into the lungs. Trace it back out. Do that a few more times. Noticing here if your breath is stopping in the lungs or if it reaches the belly. Not changing anything, But knowing that when we breathe solely from the chest, our body is telling our brain that there is stress or danger present, even if there's not. And the way we break that stress loop is by taking a few breaths from our belly. So placing one hand on your stomach. On your next inhale, trying to allow the breath to reach the belly, feeling it rise even just a little bit. Exhaling. Do that 2 more times. As our body tells our brain, I am okay, I am breathing, I am safe. Bringing your hands back to your legs now, breathing naturally again. And just noticing here any difference in how you feel in your body and your mind from just a few minutes ago, without even moving our bodies. This is just practicing a little mindfulness. Inhale. Exhale. Again, shoulders melting down. And whenever you're ready, slowly blinking your eyes open and coming back to the space. Thank you.
That's beautiful. I like that style of meditation. There was not a single deity harmed in the making of the last 5 minutes. This was just very nice, calm, parasympathetic stimulation where a calmness comes over you. And it's like when you go to a gym the first time around, you have no idea what you're doing, and you look at these weights, and even the smallest one you can barely lift. And guess what? After a month in the gym, you suddenly feel more comfortable with it and becomes more natural, and you actually figure out, hey, this is actually quite cool, and you get better in it. And it is really, really beautiful because suddenly you can actually use that to your advantage, even at moments when you're maybe a little bit more scared. So if you practice it just in the calmness, and now if you become a bit better in it, and then you actually can use it when really your mind is going nuts and you think, oh my God, it is beautiful. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. And actually, that was my trauma story, was one of resilience. So I had been working with Tribe and teaching the classes for about 6 months, and I was studying trauma. It was connecting so many dots for me, and I was teaching for about 6 months, and then a series of big traumas happened. So I was flying to Guatemala. We were about to land. I was going there to teach Tribe to women and children in Guatemala City, and we were about 10 minutes from landing. I got a message on my phone that my dad had unexpectedly passed away. And he raised me as a single father for a huge chunk of my life. And it was totally unexpected. He'd had a heart attack. And I couldn't get out of the seat, with, seatbelt lights on. And I felt my body start to take over. It's involuntary. And anyone who's experienced any kind of trauma, I think, can empathize with that. So to have an awareness around what's happening in your body and to find your breath. So right away, I noticed I'm holding my breath. So okay. And I started, you heard me use the I am affirmations. We use them throughout all of our classes. And the only ones I was reciting to myself were, I am okay, I am breathing, I'm okay. And I was reorienting myself. I'm counting the windows on the plane. I feel the seatbelt on my stomach. I'm like, okay. And I basically walk myself through this practice we just did, like different pieces of it. And only because I had built up this level of resilience, unknowingly, was I able to, in a crisis situation, use them and therefore process. Like I felt this rush of energy move through my body. And I also had the blessing of other people's stories. So I knew a woman who I'd been working with through TRI, who was sitting down, and this big trauma happened for her. And she wasn't able to stand up straight because all of the hormones, let's say, if we're speaking science, it's like stress hormones flooding your body. It stayed in her hips. So she did, I think it was like 2 years before she could really fully stand straight. So I'm thinking as I'm sitting in this chair, like buckled in, like, okay, breathe, like nothing's staying in the hips. No, it's going to process through and essentially just be really, really present in my experience. And 6 weeks later, I got a call at Starbucks that my sister passed away. And the theme was that, because totally different experiences, in so many ways. But again, I was sitting in Starbucks and I found my breath. I felt my feet on the floor. Like these things that seem so simple, that we weave in throughout the class. So I mentioned it's the foundation of TRI. So in the kids' classes, we do the same thing, but it's more energized, it's more fun. But we are giving them an opportunity to actively regulate themselves. And imagine my vision is that we have a world of resilient people, not where everyone's living a life of recovery, but, to start to make this shift of we have the tools when the thing happens, And
that's so powerful. That's beautiful. And that's a great vision. That is not a dream. That is a vision. And you have turned it into a mission because you're taking action. You're actually going out there and thinking, well, how can I make that happen? And that is beautiful. That is, I take my hat off here. Brenda, you're an amazing woman. And I wish you so much that more people will come on board. Also more people to donate their time as well as their money. Because, I mean, you're basically, you're an NGO, do I assume as such, and are you a charity?
Yeah, we're a charitable nonprofit, yes.
Which basically means you need money from other people. So we come to that in a moment, guys. So get ready, put out your credit cards, and we'll accept all major credit cards. No kidding.
Don't go anywhere just yet.
That's right. No, that's all cool. I think that the reality is what you have just done with the two of us, and hopefully other people have joined when they were listening to that. Hopefully the viewers and the listeners had the same experience. And having said that, it's a bit unfair because I've done it quite a few times before. So therefore, I very quickly got into my rhythm, etc. As I said, initially, the first time around, you feel like an idiot. You think, what do you mean breathing? I know how to breathe. What she's talking about? It is, right, exactly. So you don't know what you don't know. But then that is something that you can practice. And one nice vision that has helped me was to imagine the air as being like water and my body like a big amphora, sort of an old-fashioned Roman vessel kind of thing, and where you actually pour the air in, and it needs to go first down to the bottom. So actually let the air go all the way down, and then you breathe it back out. So it is whatever works for you, whatever little
exactly.
trick works, do it, and you will start a journey that probably will lead you to very interesting developments. Having said that, we two are talking about yoga and those things we have acknowledged. We both are there. The problem is that many people, they don't even know that they have undergone trauma. Their mind has somehow built constructs that say, yeah, that's, it just happened to me, so what? And I'm getting on with it, not even realizing that their chronic back pain, their chronic leg pain, their chronic whatever it is, is actually to do with trauma. It is actually to do with the emotional pressure that they're either still under or have been in the past. What would you say to these people? How do you catch those people who don't even know that their physical pains are, to a large degree, or to a significant degree at least, contributed by their emotional trauma?
Well, first of all, I think it's so common, and I'm so glad you brought this point up, because I always like to emphasize that our bodies are wired for survival to start. So our bodies are amazing. But if we are unknowingly stuck in this, or our mind has filed away a traumatic memory, you don't know how many people I've worked with and I've heard about who didn't remember that they were sexually abused as a child, because it's so traumatic that your brain is incredible. In order to protect you, it files that memory away somewhere where you can't access it until you explore different healing modalities. And mind-body methods are one of them. And I'm going to go with the cliche, the body keeps the score. If you haven't read the book, check it out. But the body remembers. You know, trauma is a physiological experience. And so it works from the bottom up. It first affects the body. Like in my experience, I felt this rush of stress hormones, like move up, and then it will reach the brain of logic and reasoning, and it will kind of shut that down so that you can prepare to fight it, to confront the danger, or to run away, or to freeze. But that's another story. So trauma is a physiological experience, and therefore we absolutely have to use the body when we want to recover from our trauma, when we want to start really processing what residue that has left in your body. And so I always emphasize here as well, because kind of everywhere, but especially in the Middle East, meant like psychological support, and it's highly underdeveloped. They're just now, like, there are some international organizations that are, that are pushing for this, and it's becoming more of an accepted kind of treatment. But it's still, I think in 2014, they developed the first psychology department in this country in a university. Yeah.
Okay.
So even people who are graduated psychologists, like, we still need, it's just new. So there's a lot that comes with that. And I just always emphasize that this is not a replacement for talk therapy. The talk therapy is absolutely essential. And people are starting to pick up on that here, but you have the top down and you need the bottom up. You need this full comprehensive approach in order to give people a real opportunity to process some stuff, because a lot of that can't be accessed in words. You have to include the body in order to turn some of these parts of the brain on, to activate them so that you can even put words to something. So
very true.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would like to emphasize to people out there, when we talk PTSD, when we talk trauma, you don't necessarily have to see your best friend blown up into pieces in front of your eyes and fearing for your own life. Yes, these are the kind of cliches, or these are kind of the extreme scenarios, but trauma is so common, and different scenarios, different situations can mean a very traumatic experience for one person, whilst the person standing next to him or her is saying, yeah, what are you all about? Okay, yeah, happened, kind of thing. We see that with major road traffic accidents, motor vehicle accidents. If you're pretty smashed up, well, your chance of PTSD is 30% or thereabouts. We certainly know that with sexual assault and with rape, it's such a huge number of women, when you look at it, who have suffered that fate. It's still mind-boggling, and so on, and so on, and so on. So we are talking about something and thinking, yeah, that's somewhere over there. This person, me never. The reality
I
is,
haven't been war. It can't be.
Exactly.
I can't be suffering the same thing, or
exactly. My educated guess is no, guys, no. Don't fool yourself. Why do I say that? Well, my PTSD, it was staring me in the face for decades before I actually really 3 years ago, it suddenly clicked that many of my symptoms and many of my problems were PTSD. And I felt a bit like an idiot, actually. It took me such a long time, but it just shows that it is what it is. Trauma is there and it sits in your body. And here you are. We've today talked about it, and we talked in depth about it, and we played with it. We showed you some exercises. So was it really so painful? Educated guess, no. And maybe you actually felt good doing it. So why not maybe go out there and try to find maybe a local group that practices this kind of form of yoga. Having said it, you have got a specific trauma focus, and that makes you quite special. So if people actually want to link up with you and want to learn more about Try, where do they need to go? What have you got?
Yeah, so you can go to Try, TRY, global.org, and you can reach out to us there. I love to collaborate and bring this practice to as many corners of the world as we possibly can, because like you said, it is quite unique. There is trauma-informed yoga, but we use a special combination of the breath, the movement. We weave in the self-regulation throughout the whole class. And it's quite trauma-informed as well. So there are a lot of different aspects to that. We also weave in visualization. Like you said, one of the breathing practices we do is we imagine filling up like a 3-part breath with water from the bottom. So you got it. And affirmations, and it's all based in science and psychology. So you can go to the website, reach out. We also have our crisis response team. So if you happen to be in an area of the world where we could come meet you and train people there, we would be honored to do that as well. Yeah, or just reach out and we can find a place, find your unique skills, a way to channel them into this mission.
Guys, look down there into the description of the video and of the podcast, because we've got all the details there. More importantly, we have got a call to action here, because at the moment you're thinking about the Ukraine, about helping a very realistic, huge number of internally displaced people, and potentially now leaving the country. You want to help. And in order to do so, you need money. So you have got a GoFundMe page, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us.
So the link is below, but we need your help to go to Ukraine, to really meet people where they are, and to give them these tools to, again, foster a sense of safety and security in their bodies as they continue to navigate this unpredictable and tragic situation. And what that really means is we're helping them recalibrate their nervous system and to bring certain parts of their brain back online, or to, give them an opportunity to reclaim their choice and their power to some degree in a crisis situation. So in order to do this, we need your help, and we greatly appreciate anything you're able to
Beautiful.
Contribute. Yes.
So check down there, and now is the time that you actually can, whilst you're checking down there, press the subscribe button on my show, because I've got some amazing guests. I mean, here, look at Brenda, for crying out loud. This woman is changing the world, literally one yoga session at a time. I love it. I love it. Secondly, you might as well like today's video or podcast here. And then you might as well go down there and maybe think, you know, you can help make this world a better place. And why not? Why not? Go out there. And Brenda, you're an amazing woman. Thank you so much for coming onto my show. You truly honored me, and you make a concept actually very palatable. I struggle with overly religious kind of things. For you to talk science and bring it down to very clear, logical kind of terms, that speaks to me, and there will be many people out there who love that. So thank you very much for making a maybe confusing concept very easily accessible. Cool.
Thank you. This was so enjoyable. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. And you guys out there, go out there, look after yourself, but live with passion. Bye.